Welcome back, y'all. Welcome to We Need Help 2 Wednesdays. Today we're going to be talking about specific behavior programs. I figured since I've mentioned a couple of these in a past screencast, I might as well go a little bit more in depth and show you the specifics of them. So we'll do check-ins. These are the 5 different specific behavior programs I'm going to go through today, along with the basic prerequisites that you'll need. Quiz or a challenge, and then the best ways to contact me. So quick check-ins. Positive moment yesterday. I got to participate in the chat with Roger's group, and it was a blast. It was a little hard to follow because they type fast, but it was really great to connect with them. Media review. I am rereading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. It couldn't come at a better time. It's a little bit grounding. It's from pretty long ago. Marcus Aurelius, he was a Roman emperor, so it's kind of fun how his words ring true today, just like they did way back when. And a quick shout out, Holden is clearing up in terms of his congestion, and big thanks to a helpful parent out there that gave me some good insights on directions that we can go. He's not quite out of the woods yet, but we're making some great gains. So these are the prerequisites, the things that we need to have in place to make sure that any behavior program that we launch will be successful, or at least if it's not successful, it's not because of anything we failed to do. So we need to have a schedule in place, and I would recommend going back and looking at some of the other Wednesday screencasts just to get a better picture of why these things are so necessary. But we need some way to segment into intervals, tasks, or demands. We need some way to break those down, and so that makes it a little bit easier to form those objective definitions of specific behaviors or expectations. Having a schedule can really help say, okay, this is what we're doing right now, and these are the expectations. And when I say expectations, these are kind of like rules or what you expect to have accomplished. So with these, make them specific. One of the first things I do if I go into a classroom or if I'm helping with a parent is look at the rules that they have posted. And a lot of times we fall prey to rules like be respectful or things that are kind of vague like that. And the more specific you can be with the rules, the better it's going to be for the students. I sometimes compare this to when you're playing a game, and if you don't know what the rules are, or if the rules keep changing, it can be very frustrating. So your kids need to know what those rules are, what those expectations are in terms of very specific definitions. You also need a hierarchy of rewards ranging from low to high, things that you can put in place right now or things that are going to take a little bit longer. So things like a quick treat or a quick break, going up to you get to go to a amusement park when they reopen, or bigger things like that. And then a contract. If you've got older students, really, I would use this as low as first grade. But if you have a contract that says these are the expectations, this is the schedule, this is what I can earn or win, I feel like it gives the child a lot more buy-in, and it also gives you this sort of binding agreement. Oh, remember we signed this. I'm not being, I'm not putting in these consequences or withholding these rewards because I'm a mean person. It's because that wasn't part of the agreement that we both signed. Next level tip. On the previous slide, there was a reward spinner. If you've got a couple of different low level rewards, sometimes it's nice to have a random spinner or roll of a dice, or if you're familiar with Excel, you can do a random function there just to make those minor rewards a little bit more variable throughout the day. The first one I'll talk about is the Sure I Will program. I love this one. This one came from my mentor and dissertation chair, Dr. Bill Jensen, and it comes out of the Tough Kid Toolbox. It really is just a very simple compliance program. Essentially what happens is you give a request. So, Sam, you need to take out the trash. Ooh, I forgot the other quotation mark there. Anyway, sorry. You give a precision request, and the child gives a canned response. So that could be sure I will, or you betcha, or okie dokie, whatever the child likes to say. And then if they initiate that task within 3 to 5 seconds, they get a tally or a checkbox or some sort of mark that says, yep, you not only said sure I will, but you also followed through with it. And then you can do rewards in two different ways. You can have total checks or tallies turned in at the end of the interval for a bigger reward, or you can turn them in whenever the child has a few for a minor reward. So if the child does 5 sure I wills or 10 you betchas, then they can turn that in for a quicker break, whereas if they save up for like 30 or 40, then they could turn it in for a bigger reward. So for troubleshooting, the child says okay but doesn't actually follow through. Only mark the box when follow through occurs. And one way to get started on this is to front load easier tasks to build up what we call behavioral momentum. So really making sure that you've got good rewards in place that the child wants, but then starting with something simple like, oh, will you go close the door? Or you need to do something, just whatever that they're willing to do that shouldn't be such a huge burden or a huge task, just to get that momentum going. And the next level tip for this, if you've got multiple children or even a spouse, make it a competition. Post it publicly and see who can get the most sure I wills throughout the interval or throughout the day. Stickers and star charts, most of you are familiar with these. It's pretty much a yes-no program for if an expectation was met during an interval. So you create a table that's got rows and columns. This could be broken up into days and behaviors, so like, did you brush your teeth Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Or it could be for routine and tasks. So it's morning, did you do your academic work? It's afternoon, did you do your work at home? It's evening time, did you do your chores? However you want to break it up, it's essentially just like a bingo card with columns and rows. If the child follows the expectations, they get to put a sticker or a star in the appropriate box. Pretty straightforward. Rewards on this, sometimes just having that is reinforcing in and of itself. Posting that up on the fridge or somewhere where it's highly visible and showing how good the kid's doing, that can be a reward in itself. But otherwise, once they have earned enough stickers, they can turn them in for a prize. Some ways to troubleshoot this: look for patterns and change up the expectation. So if you're seeing that they consistently struggle to get a star or a sticker in a certain box, try to figure out what can we do for that specific box to make it a little bit easier for the child. And then I would allow multiple combinations. So we went and played bingo, well, it was probably 2 years ago, but it had been the first time I played bingo like where people play bingo. So they had the daubers and everything, and I didn't realize that it was so complicated and there were so many different patterns that you could get. So try to throw in a couple of different combinations. So if you get all of this row or all of this column, or if you get an X, just whatever you can do to shake that up. Along those same lines, on the next level tip, make one of the boxes a random lottery winner. So try to find some way that you can remember, okay, it's this cell, this individual box, and if they happen to get the star or the sticker in that, it's random lottery day, and we're going to make it a huge celebration. For marble jars or pebble buckets, this is really just a visual and auditory cue to promote compliance, where you can have a little bit more bartering. So each time a child follows a request, they get to put a marble in a jar, or anything really. I've seen fuzzy balls, I've seen pebbles in hopefully a more sturdy container than a glass jar, but whatever works. It should be clear. Any little objects that you have that can be tossed into a jar. One of the more innovative ones I saw was a parent got a whole Lego set, and every time the kid followed a behavior, they got to put a Lego piece in there, and as soon as they got filled up, they could build that Lego structure. And really, you get to decide how many marbles or Legos or pebbles or whatever each task is worth. But this is one of the rare instances where I'm okay with bartering. If a kid really wants to make a case for why they think they should earn 4 marbles for this task instead of 2, I'm okay with that. As long as, if they're starting to get a little bit out of control with it, you still have to hold on to the marbles, but that kind of lets you know which tasks they really, really don't want to do. and that's good data to have. For rewards, the container should have marks for minor rewards along the way, and then once it's filled, that means a major reward has been earned. If you've got a sneaky kid, this was me when I was younger, I would try to put more marbles in, or anything really to make it seem more full than it was. If you need to, keep it high, use a secured container, or you be the one that holds on to the marbles. And then it's also sometimes helpful to write the rewards on the outside of the container just to make it more salient. So it's not this abstract, oh, well, once the jar is filled, I get something, but I don't know what that is. Just write them specifically on there with like a Sharpie, or write it on a piece of paper and tape it to there. Next level tip. This is where I kind of like to use a pebble bucket instead of a marble jar, because sometimes we don't have marbles available, but also if you're using a pebble bucket, you can go outside and find different sizes of pebbles, rocks, and then you can use the larger ones for the bigger asks, for the ones that the child really doesn't want to do. So instead of giving them more marbles or more pebbles, you get to give them a bigger one. And this could be like a cool activity to go do just to break up the day. We're going to go for a walk, and we're going to look for different sized pebbles or stones that we can use for this pebble bucket. Another one that I really like to use is called Chart Moves. This is essentially a blank coloring page of something that the kid likes. So if they're into race cars, it's a car. If they're into Disney movies, maybe it's their favorite Disney character. But then essentially what you're going to do is draw dots all around it. And as the child earns points or goes intervals with expected behaviors, they get to connect a certain number of dots. And once all of the dots are connected, they get to color the picture and get a major reward. In terms of minor rewards, every 5 to 10 dots, I would circle one, and then every time they get to one of those circled dots, that represents a minor reward. And then once it's finished, like I said, they turn it in for a major reward. They also get to color it and try to make that a big deal for them. So they get to color it. It could go on their wall of fame. It could be going into a scrapbook, whatever works. Troubleshooting, if they try to connect more dots than they've earned, again, this is Sneaky Joe from his 4th and 5th and 6th grade years, then they would have to go backwards as many dots as they tried to skip. And if they're struggling to stay motivated, if they sort of get halfway and then they just sort of give up, I would throw in some either more smaller circle dots or medium-sized circle dots, just to try to keep those rewards coming and keep that momentum going. Next level tip, I know we are social distancing, but if they do have a preferred adult, I'm thinking of my little Hadley would absolutely love to show anything off to her grandma. Or if there's a cool uncle, if they can make that a big deal and be like, oh wow, you really did such a good job, look at this, you got all the dots and you colored it, I love how you colored it. And then I'm thinking about my mother, she would always be willing to throw in a couple of other rewards for that. So just things to make it a little bit more effective. Penny boards, this will be the last one I talk about, and I'm not sure how applicable this is going to be for most of you. This comes from really more of an ABA background for discrete trial training for students that have a really tough time. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. These are for things that are very difficult for the child or are highly non-preferred. So the child would choose what they're willing to work for, and then every time they accomplish a task. So maybe this is division problems. So every 5 division problems I'm going to do, I get a iPad time. So every time I do a problem, I get a penny, and I can put that on my penny board. And once I fill up that penny board, that's when I get what I'm working for. Again, typically we use 5 pennies to do the board, and then they get what they're working for. You can combine this with a bigger reward scheme or just leave it standalone. The way you would combine it would be every time the child gets those 5 pennies, you would record a tally. And you would say, okay, over this period they did this many, they earned this many low-level rewards. So if they earn, 10 of those, then maybe we can call that a major reward. Or maybe we're going to do the same 5 problem sequence 3 times. So you can try to combine it or just leave it by itself. So troubleshooting, sometimes the student will wait for you to do the the problem for them, or will pretend that they don't know how, or will sort of get you to do more than what you really need to. So really for this, I would say for the first penny or 2 pennies, maybe give them a little bit of assistance, but really think about what they should be able to do on their own and only give the penny when they've done it themselves. And then instead of sort of becoming a parrot and verbally repeating what you need the student to do, rather than that, I like to use the penny board as a reference. So I'm going to point to it, I'm going to look at it, I might hold it up, just so that I'm not constantly nagging, and it's more of a, you know what the drill is here, you know the expectation. I can't physically make you do a division problem, but I can try to incentivize it and make it a little bit less painful for you. So I'm just going to hold this up. Next level tip, where I've used this most, we use the old DVD case with Velcro. So we put Velcro or what's it called? Hook and loop tape on the backside of pennies, and then we actually put those pennies on the DVD case. And inside the DVD case, we've got different icons for what the kid might be working for. But you could use a whiteboard, you could use a cookie sheet, whatever you can use that makes it presentable. If you're trying to do this on pencil and paper, you're gonna really run out of paper pretty quick. So the challenge for you guys today, we all need reinforcement. We've talked a lot about what we can do to motivate our children, but we need it too. So create your own reward program using things that you would usually consider a luxury that you don't usually get to have. Let somebody know about it, and then give yourself the reinforcement you've earned. We skip ourselves way too often, especially when we have others that we're taking care of. But the problem is, if we don't attend to ourselves, we're going to get burnt out. And then if we get burnt out, we're going to be more frustrated or just overall less helpful in the end. So give yourself the reinforcement that you've earned. Last up, just best ways to contact me. Hope to hear from you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.